Hello, everyone, and many thanks for joining this stream. Second news update for today. Many members of our community probably already noticed that I did made little changes in format of the programs. From now on, I will try, dear friends, to have two news updates on daily basis from Monday to Friday. From Monday to Thursday for sure. And sometimes first live stream in the morning or first update in the morning will be live stream. Sometimes like today, walk and talk type of video from the streets of Moscow. And if first video, first update is a walk and talk type, then second week will be a live stream most likely. And no, likewise, if I have a evening update today, tomorrow I will do morning live stream. So I will mix up a little bit, and this way I will be able to first of all share more information, more reports from Russian media about major developments that Russian public is paying attention to, and while doubling down basically on my work, hopefully it will have a positive effect, and I'll be able to reach a wider audience, overcome obstacles from algorithm, and same time maybe hopefully project will receive more support from community, and I'll be able to stay in this field full time. Let's see how it will work out, dear friends. And so yes, that's the change, dear friends. I will have two updates. Sometime it's gonna be a walk and talk in the morning, sometimes live stream in the morning, and likewise, in the afternoon or in the evening. Okay, hopefully I did explain what I meant. And if you have not seen today's morning's video, by the way, morning's update, it's available on my channels. And look at it. I'm not gonna repeat most of the news that I shared in that first update. It was a walk and talk type. And so, okay, that's been said, dear friends. As always, after a new segment, I will join community chat for a little while. If you and I will just reiterate that if you want to support my work, dear friends, you can do it through several means. There is a links under this video in description box for PayPal, Boosty. You can subscribe to my Patreon page also and choose your level of monthly support there. I have a page on Boosty. Also, during the streams, you can use a super chat feature on Rumble, where my channel is monetized for donation, and also to highlight any question or commentary that you might want to be highlighted. And you can become premium subscriber on Rumble. So there is quite a choice there to support my work, this media project of mine. And yeah, that's about it for intro. Let's go through some news now, dear friends. And well, as I said, if you take a look at my YouTube page, dear friends, this one is today's first news update. And some people are getting confused on the page, by the way. I mean, there is a video section where you can see all the videos, pre-recorded videos, that is. Also, there is a past live streams, right? All the live streams that I ever had. There are also popular videos, and this is a playlist, by the way, right? And also, when I'm sharing some community messages on community page. So, okay, that's being said. First video only has for now like 1,300 views, but many people did not know that this change was coming. So hopefully from now on, videos will do a little better in terms of views. And after all, I cannot trust YouTube, by the way. How long subscriber number is on 35,900 for 3-4 months? How that's even possible, by the way? If people don't like the content, they are unsubscribing, right? And if you like the content, they are sharing information, and more people are joining to community. But to be fixed on 35,900, I mean, it's crazy. YouTube is manipulating with numbers, and it's just too obvious. But anyways, dear friends, Let me start with the news. And as the headline says of today's live stream, German investigators named London's favorite to replace Zelensky, former head of Ukraine's general staff, Zaluzhny, as a Nord Stream sabotage mastermind, which is quite interesting, isn't it? There is clearly some misunderstanding or miscommunication between London and Berlin because I don't think British elites are going to be happy while Zaluzhny being named as a mastermind of this biggest industrial terrorist attack that ever happened in this world, right? So let me give you some details. Former Ukrainian commander-in-chief Valery Zaluzhny commissioned the sabotage of the Nord Stream pipelines in 2022. German newspaper Die Welt reported on Monday, citing investigators familiar with the matter. According to newspaper, German investigators believe they have cracked the case of their attack on the Nord Stream 1 and 2 pipelines, which run under the Baltic Sea and were built to carry Russian natural gas directly to Germany, which will give Germany, by the way, if operational, these pipelines will give Germany, future, safe future, right, to a lifeline to German economy. But globalist control regime in Berlin missed all the opportunities, right? But that's a whole different topic. Previous Western media reports claimed that authorities already knew the identities of their entire crew, reportedly made up of Ukrainian nationals, aboard the yacht Andromeda, which is suspected to be the vessel involved in this sabotage terrorist attack, I will say. Die Welt noted that they were acting on the orders from Zaluzhny, who was dismissed from his post in February 2024 and appointed Ukraine's ambassador to UK, where he still is as an ambassador. Since then, media reports have speculated that Zaluzhny could use his political clout to become a Ukrainian leader, Vladimir Zelensky's most dangerous rival in a potential election. Media reports in August claimed that he is already laying the groundwork for a presidential bid, and this recruiting campaign staff claims Zaluzhny's team has denied. Earlier, reporting from Der Spiegel, another German media outlet, it is German, isn't it? In September 2024, also claimed that Zaluzhny greenlighted the attack, while later article by Der Spiegel suggested that the general was so impressed by their operation that he wanted to expand it to target Russia's Turk Stream pipeline in the Black Sea also. Although their efforts was thwarted, Zaluzhny has denied having any role in the sabotage. According to Die Welt, however, some experts remain skeptical of alleged Ukrainian role, saying the saboteurs were behaving too conspicuously. All nonsense. An official familiar with the investigation said, as cited by the newspaper. And in any case, by the way, it is quite interesting, isn't it? It seems like there is an internal confrontation among globalist controlled regimes. Maybe Washington, despite earlier claims by some media outlets, are still disagree with London to replace Zelensky with Zaluzhny, and there may be this behind this article, and also behind their investigation. To direct the investigation is U.S. Secret Services that have tremendous influence in Germany. And maybe this way Washington wants to remove Zaluzhny from potential list of the individuals that can be considered as a replacement of Zelensky, so that White House will put some other personality there in a presidential office. It's a possibility, isn't it? Anyways, dear friends, we all understand that all this narrative of Ukrainian saboteurs being authors of the terrorist attack on Nord Stream pipelines is a false narrative. I believe, and I shared my take earlier quite a few times, I believe CIA and MI6 actually authorized, or maybe even give their order to the regime to come up with a team which will work on operation to destroy Nord Stream pipelines. But idea behind this order would be that CIA then and MI6 and whichever forces from the US or UK were involved, they will track this group and collect evidences, right? So that when US and UK will conduct terrorist attack on Nord Stream pipelines, they will use these evidences of existence of this group that was working on operation to destroy Nord Stream pipelines, to give these evidences to investigators, right? And to basically shift attention from US to this group, Ukrainian group, that was set up from the beginning to be a scapegoat. It seems logical to me, isn't it? That's most likely what had happened. And so Zaluzhny probably was informed about existence of this group. He authorized the attack, but he did not knew that he was played by US CIA, right? By US intelligence community. He will find out now. He will find out now. If US is attacking Zaluzhny this way, I guess Zaluzhny's chances to replace Zelensky is becoming very, very small, right? And on the topic of this false narrative that this terrorist attack was conducted solely by Ukrainian terrorists, well, this morning, by the way, I did reported in the first update about statements of aide of the Russian president and former head of Russia's security service, Federal Security Service, Nikolai Patrushev, who stated that elite UK divers likely were behind the Nord Stream sabotage. I don't know why RT is using this word, by the way, sabotage. It was a terrorist attack. Even German investigators designated it as a terrorist attack, I believe. So why RT is using this sabotage word, which is a misleading, actually, I will say. But nevertheless, let me go through some details here. The sabotage of the Nord Stream pipelines could not have been carried out without Western commanders. A top aide to Russian President Vladimir Putin has claimed signing out Britain as their likely culprit. German prosecutors have attributed their explosions in their international waters in September 2022, which disabled their twin pipelines supplying Russian gas to Germany via the Baltic Sea, to a group of Ukrainian nationals. In an article published Sunday in the Kommersant newspaper that I use quite often to share relative news with you, dear friends, during the updates, Nikolai Patrushev argued that Ukrainians lack the expertise to carry out this complex operation independently. The sabotage was likely planned, overseen, and executed with the involvement of highly trained NATO special forces, Patrushev wrote, adding that their preparations were experienced, perpetrators were experienced in deep sea operations and familiar with the working in the Baltics. Few armies or intelligence services have in this world have divers capable of executing such an operation correctly and above all covertly. One unit with the necessary skills is the British Special Boat Service, he said. And the British Special Boat Service, by the way, is second most famous, I will say, special unit, special purpose unit that UK has. First is, of course, SAS, that is much more known worldwide, but these ones, by the way, are no any less in their capabilities. Special boat service. Both these special units, special forces units, have suffered the casualties, by the way, during this proxy war that West is waging against Russia. SAS units were eliminated by Russian forces, and also British Special Boat Service members were also eliminated. And sometime in the future, probably some information will be either declassified or relatives of this killed British military personnel will begin talking and sharing with public information. But one way or another, we're going to find out how many of these highly trained or highly skilled British special operations unit members were eliminated. But yes, to just to know a little better what this special bot service is, most likely majority of our community knows perfectly well what am I talking about. So this group, by the way, just to add, was founded during the World War II. Their SBS is the Royal Navy's elite squad. They are specializing on amphibious warfare. And so Russian official, by the way, aide of Russian president, former head of Federal Security Service, FSB, definitely would not make such claims pointing at their British special forces without concrete evidences, isn't it? So no one, literally no one in Russia, and I guess worldwide, gonna buy this false narrative that West is pushing, or US is pushing through its assets, that it was some Ukrainian group, by the way. I mean, no, it's not gonna fly. But nevertheless, interesting developments, isn't it? Clearly, there is some tensions between Washington and London on the topic of who will replace Zelensky. Hardly anyone has any doubts that Zelensky's numbers in the presidential office in Kiev controlled territory is numbered, and someone has to replace him. And Zaluzhny's chances becoming, very little after this attack orchestrated by CIA, I will say, on him. Share your take, dear friends, what you make of all that story. Share your take on the comment section in the chat also. RIA Novosti, meanwhile, is reporting, dear friends, that current commander-in-chief of the armed forces of Ukraine acknowledged their multiple numerical superiority of the Russian armed forces. And by the way, current commander replaced Zaluzhny. We all know that, isn't it? So commander-in-chief of the armed forces of Ukraine, Alexander Syrsky, acknowledged the multiple numerical superiority of the Russian troops at the front. We have a quote from his statements that he brought on Facebook. The enemy currently has a threefold advantage in forces and resources, and in the main areas of concentration of its efforts, it can prevail by 4 to 6 times. I mean, that's quite something to say, isn't it? Head of Kiev regime's general staff is saying that Russian armed forces usually have like 3 times more troops on line of contact, but in main areas or main directions of their operations, Russian side can have even 6 times more troops on the battlefield. I don't know how accurate these numbers is, by the way, but well, it's Kiev regime's head of Kiev regime's armed forces is saying this, right? Head of their general staff, and maybe he is lying, and while doing so, he's trying to kind of justify somehow losses that Kiev regime has on a battlefield in terms of manpower, in terms of territories, right? But in other hand, maybe there is some truth in his statements. Also, let me add there, against the backdrop of the deteriorating situation of Ukrainian troops in the combat zone, Syrsky stated that he plans to accept 15,000 ground robots into service this year. And well, this is something that Russian militaries will definitely pay close attention to. Both sides, by the way, Russian militaries and Kiev regime's forces are using not just aerial drones, but also quite a high number ground drones. I have shared on my Telegram and Twitter X page many times videos of work of these ground robots. Some of them are specialized to deliver munition to their zero line, to their fighters. Some of them are basically mines, right? Bombs. They are getting closer to enemy stronghold and detonating. And some of them are for evacuation purposes. Some of them are evacuating wounded military staff from front lines. So there is a significant level of ground drones that are involved also in this special military operation that Russia is conducting. or we can say in this proxy war that West is waging against Russia. As the chief of general staff of the armed forces, Valery Gerasimov reported earlier at the end of August that the Ukrainian armed forces tried to slow down the Russian offensive in spring and summer, suffering heavy losses in the process. According to him, the strategic initiative is entirely in hands of Russian militaries, which is true, by the way. Russian forces literally advancing on daily basis. And I see quite often members of our community are asking why this process is so slow. I explained on numerous occasions my take on the situation, but first of all, by the way, we have to understand that parts of DPR that's still controlled, for example, by Kyiv regime, was prepared for defense with defense lines, filled with defense lines for years and years and years, right? Kyiv regime since 2014 was building these fortified areas, and obviously it takes time, by the way, to neutralize these fortified areas with minimal casualties. That's the one thing. Secondly, task of Russian troops right now is to demilitarize Kyiv regime's forces, right? To demilitarize Kyiv regime's forces, and therefore it's not about territories at this point. It's about targeting their enemy troops as much as possible while minimizing their battle capabilities, forcing basically Kyiv regime's forces to collapse. Right after this collapse, then we should expect some arrow style of operations, like large-scale operations, but not before that, because it would be senseless, right? Also, on top of that, dear friends, one of the reasons why some people think that a special military operation is taking too long is because maybe people that are asking questions are not really familiar with geography of this former Soviet Republic. By the way, it was a third biggest republic in the Soviet Union after Russia and the Kazakhstan, right? And in the borders that Ukraine was in Soviet Union, this republic is not really much smaller than France, for example. And you know how big France is, right? So we should keep that in mind also, that it's a massive territory that Bolsheviks basically give to this give to Ukrainians, right? Political Ukrainians, by the way, because I don't believe there is an ethnic group of Ukrainians. I don't believe in existence of ethnically Ukrainians. I just don't believe in that, right? Someone might claim that he or she is from Andromeda galaxy, and what now? And if that someone is successful enough, then after 10, 20, 50, 100 years, followers, that person might have, like, I don't know, 1 million followers or 10 million followers or 20 million followers. And what? We all have to now call them ethnic Andromedian race, ethnically Andromedians, and there are some Andromedian race. No, it's nonsensical, right? It's this point of Ukrainianism, political Ukrainianism, was generated, this idea was generated in UK, in British Empire, by the way, by British aristocracy. Then this idea was taken by German aristocracy, and Bismarck was, I believe it was Bismarck who was saying that if you want to weaken Russia, you have to put in the minds of people that are living on Ukraine area, outskirt of the territory that Poland was controlling and calling Ukraine or outskirt. You have to put in minds of these people that they are not Russians, they are not Poles, they are not Hungarians, they are Ukrainians. Ukraine, they manipulate with that word, right? Ukraine. It's nonsensical. That's why I don't believe in existence of ethnic Ukrainians. But nevertheless, this is a whole different story. Also, let me give you some more news. In the middle of the last month, data emerged that Ukraine has lost 1.7 million soldiers and officers killed and missing since February 2022. Later, the hacker group Killnet confirmed to RIA Novosti that it had hacked their database of the general staff of the armed forces of Ukraine through their work of work computer of the head of the logistics department. So no wonder after such casualties, by the way, no wonder the Kyiv regime is suffering, significant main shortages, significant shortages in manpower. But yet again, we should keep in mind that Zelensky might be exaggerating numbers of the Russian forces on the line of contact. This way, he might just try to justify why he is unsuccessful, why his forces are unsuccessful to maintain the defense lines. I mean, he can say, well, there is like 5 times more Russians are attacking, so what we can do? I mean, we have to retreat. Maybe that's why he's saying this stuff, right? Anyways, dear friends, lately Kyiv regime is paying too much attention, one might say, to Russian capabilities, and exaggerating or not, but we also have this report, by the way, that I spot on Kirill Fyodorov's Telegram channel, one of the biggest channels on Russian segment of internet, by the way, in the Telegram. And here, by the way, the information is coming also from Kyiv regime about Russian military-industrial complex and its capabilities to build certain units of certain weapon systems. And we have some numbers for 2025. Let me give you some details. So, Deputy Head of Main Intelligence Directorate of Kyiv regime, Vadim Skibitsky, gave an interview where he shared the information about how much military equipment Russia's defense industry will produce throughout 2025. In short, the Ukrainian officer announced their following numbers regarding armored vehicles and aircraft, fighters, and the others of all types, Su-30, 34, 35, 57. Kyiv regime expects that Russia will produce 57 new units this year of these advanced fighter jets, multi-role planes, by the way, basically, right? That all these 4 types of planes, Su-30, Su-34, 35, and 57 are. Su-34 is more focused on, of course, ground attack operations, but it can do multi-role operations too. I mean, it can do some air-to-air combat too, if necessary, right? But Su-30, Su-35, and Su-57, of course, are multi-purpose fighter jets. So Kyiv regime expects, I guess, based on intelligence that they are receiving from NATO, that Russia will build 57 new multi-role planes this year. When it comes to 1090M tanks, by the way, Proriv as it called, our enemies expect that we will build 250 new tanks, T90M tanks, which is a quite impressive number, by the way, if you think about it. Also, our enemies expect that we will build 365 units of all types of artillery systems. Also not bad, but I think number here could be much higher. And when it comes to infantry fighting vehicles and armored personnel carriers, expectations of our enemies are that the Russian military-industrial complex will build at least 1,100 new units of BTR-82 of different variations and BMP-3. So also quite impressive numbers, isn't it? Share your take, what you think, dear friends. Does it look like, even based on information that our enemies are providing, does it look like Russian armed forces are suffering from a lack of either air force or armored vehicles or artillery or anything? Even our enemies, by the way, are not saying this, right? But if you only take information from Western propaganda, by the way, you will think that Russia has no more any tanks, infantry fighting vehicles, aircrafts, and so on. That's how mad, that's how crazy Western propaganda actually is. But I mean, it's just unbelievable. Also, dear friends, let me give you information that was reported by RIA Novosti that Russian troops strike their most powerful thermal power plant in Kyiv region. This happened last night. So Russian troops have hit the most powerful power station in the Kyiv region. Nikolaev resistance coordinator Sergei Lebedev told the RIA Novosti. We have quotes here. according to information that our underground has, or pro-Russian partisans, by the way. Tripolskaya terminal power plant was hit seriously, big time. There are massive power outages in Kiev region, and in Kiev the impact was massive. Local residents could not counted about 7 explosions in this power plant. And to give you some stats about what this power plant is, there Tripolskaya power plant was commissioned in 1969 during the Soviet Union, by the way, and is located on the bank of the Dnieper River, 13 kilometers from Kiev. TPP generated about 57% of all energy consumed by enterprises in the region and was the largest supplier of electricity in Ukraine, supplying the Kiev, Cherkasy, and Zhytomyr regions. Last night, an air raid alarm was declared in the Kiev region, Sumy region, and Zhytomyr regions. So yes, significant success, I will say, of Russian troops. There is no detailed information for how long this power plant will be out of operation, but if necessary, I guess Russian militaries can send additional drones to take out this not nuclear, by the way, thermal power plant if order is given, right? Also, dear friends, when it comes to special military operation, DD Geopolitics Telegram channel, also a big channel, by the way, many of you are familiar, quite sure, with this channel, reported that Russian forces have secured their heavily defended Serebryansky Forest, despite the significant presence of Ukrainian reinforcements, which have since been pushed back. And Serebryansky Forest is, of course, on the northern side of Seversk city, by the way, where Russian troops are conducting also offensive operations. And it is highly likely that in a couple of weeks' time, Seversk will end up in operational encirclement. Russian troops already are conducting operations inside the Seversk. At this point, maybe it's DRGs mainly, but it's only a matter of a couple of weeks, and we will see significant progress in this direction too. Obviously, it was a very difficult task to clear this Serebryansky Forest, because it's a massive forest, by the way. Forests are bigger than all forests combined in continental Europe, right? In Western Europe, let's say. Bigger than all forests that you can combine in Western Europe, let's say. So it did take time to clear the area. And now when Russian troops can send reinforcements, easier through this forestry, of course, we should expect a significant activization of the Russian troops in direction of Seversk. And already, by the way, reports were coming in today while I was monitoring media outlets that Russian troops established control over the Yampol settlement. This is, I believe, also northern side of Seversk, or southern side of Kupiansk, if I remember correctly, the geography. And there are also reports that Russian troops are not just active in the direction of Seversk from northern side, from Serebryansky Forest and Serebryansky settlement, but also from the southern side. So therefore, I have every reason to believe that in a couple of weeks' time, Seversk will be in operational encirclement, maybe even liberated. By the way, we all remember how fast the Russian operation went to liberate Ugledar, isn't it? It was a stronghold of Kiev regime for many, many months, and then suddenly Russian troops just, I don't know how, but they did manage to penetrate their enemy defense lines, and they liberated their city literally in days. That's how surprisingly fast that operation was. Surprisingly, I mean, for us, for non-military staff, right? Military experts, of course, have better understanding on the situation, but nevertheless. Also, dear friends, let me give you this information that according to New York Times, at least 92 US citizens disguised as mercenaries have been killed in Ukraine since their conflict began. So details are that at least 92 American mercenaries have been killed in action during the Ukrainian conflict. This is stated in an article in New York Times dedicated to the presence of American soldiers of fortune in Ukraine. And dear friends, I believe real number of losses is much higher among U.S. Mercenaries. Let's say, okay, among U.S. mercenaries, real number I'm quite sure is much higher. But when it comes to losses among U.S. special forces, of course, this information going to be classified as it is classified in regards to British SAS or Special Boat Service, right? And those numbers never gonna become a public, or after quite some time, right? And therefore, I believe real number is significantly higher than 92. But nevertheless, the publication notes that from 2022, from 1,000 to several thousand Americans could arrive in Ukraine, citing data from their Museum of a History of Ukraine in World War II. The newspaper reported that at least 92 volunteers were killed in their fighting. Yet again, these numbers don't make sense. I mean, if New York Times itself is saying that at least several thousand or around several thousand U.S. citizens arrived in Kiev, some of them did not join the Foreign Legion or whatever names these mercenary units have, but some of them clearly did, right? I guess 30-40% of them probably did join ranks of Kiev regime's forces, and therefore their casualty numbers among them, just have to be like much higher than 92, I think. But anyways, sometime in the future we will find out. New York Times claims that the salary of U.S. mercenaries is no different from the salaries of Ukrainian soldiers. Base rate is $1,000 per month, and for so-called combat pay, you can earn another $3,000 per month. At the same time, after the first battle, some of them ask to be transferred to another job, for example, in logistics. Speaking about the contingent of American mercenaries, the newspaper notes that many of them serve in U.S. Army. In addition, New York Times claims that the U.S. government, eager to avoid any hint of a direct confrontation with the Russian armed forces, provides virtually no assistance to their volunteers, which is a lie, by the way, of course. Support for the mercenaries allegedly comes only from non-profit organizations, which in particular send the remains of killed mercenaries to U.S. So I guess quite interesting news here, isn't it? I don't believe in numbers, by the way. I think among U.S. mercenaries, so-called mercenaries, in majority of cases, U.S. special forces in Kiev-controlled territory, losses are much higher than 92. But that's what New York Times is reporting. Also, by the way, when it comes to U.S. mercenaries, maybe you already heard that founder of former Blackwater private military company and head of a current private military company, new one, that called, I forget how it called, Eric Prince, by the way, is circling Ukrainian drone gold mine. This is a headline from Geopolitics Prime Telegram channel. Let me give you some details on that. As Donald Trump's government flirts with their sending private military contractors to post-war Ukraine, guess who's back? Eric Prince, founder of the infamous Blackwater. Sources tell The Guardian, that British Guardian newspaper, that Prince is in Kiev aggressively pitching himself to the Ukrainian drone industry, even looking to buy up companies. But many in their business see him as toxic, recalling his bloody Blackwater legacy and their failed mercenary pitches from Afghanistan and Haiti. Analysts say it's no surprise drones are their new gold rush for mercenary firms. Academy, I remember, by the way. Now, private military company that is led by Eric Prinzer called Academy, if I remember correctly. Basically, Blackwater, after all the allegations against that PMC, Blackwater was rebranded into Academy, right? That's what Eric Prince did. So analysts say it's no surprise drones are the new gold rush for mercenary firms, and the Prinzer has history of chasing profit in conflict zones tied to minerals and the geopolitics. Excuse me. Ukraine, with its rare earth mineral resources and cutting-edge drone battlefield experience, is his latest target, and it is well possible, by the way, that he already and most likely recruited quite a number of Ukrainians for his private military company, and they are quite active in Africa, for example, in different countries on African continent. Just a couple of days ago, there was actually even pictures and videos of Ukrainian mercenaries in one of their conflict zones in Africa. So it is well documented at this point that Ukrainian mercenaries are actively used by all sorts of private military companies in different conflict zones in Africa and elsewhere, right? And most likely, Eric Prince is, in Ukraine, on one side, to get his hands on drone technologies, on knowledge of how to operate with the drones in high intensity conflict, and probably he is recruiting specialists, right? Ukraine is the most corrupt country in Europe by far, right? And all he has to do is give a couple of million, by the way, dollars to I don't know, Zelensky or whomever, and he can recruit, if he wants, even thousands of experienced battle-hardened Ukrainians, right, for his private military company. Maybe that's exactly what he will do. I don't know, but I think it is interesting to have in mind that, private military company of Eric Prince, Academy, or form of Blackwater, is quite active in Ukraine. And also, when it comes to foreign mercenaries in this creation of Bolsheviks that Ukraine is, we have this report, by the way, which is also interesting. Geopolitics Prime channel reports that Colombians, by the way, that actively recruited by all sorts of private military companies to be deployed almost everywhere where there is a conflict, these Colombian mercenaries lost over 500 members. Over 500 members, by the way, since their beginning of this, since this latest escalation of this conflict, right? Which is a quite huge number, isn't it? Can you imagine how many Colombians are there on controlled territory that are more than 500 of them already being killed? It's thousands of them there, right? I guess. And whoever will survive, by the way, from these Colombians, you guessed where they're going to end up? In narco cartels, right? They're going to end up in all sorts of drug cartels in Colombia and in Mexico and elsewhere. But many of them probably already have been recruited by these drug cartels from Latin America. And soon, I guess, news field gonna be full with the reports of battle experienced Colombian mercenaries and their operations against U.S. militaries or U.S. civilians potentially, right, or Mexican civilians and their officials potentially, and that kind of stuff. But information is quite interesting, isn't it? They already lost more than 500 mercenaries, these Colombian groups. And when it comes to terrorist activity, by the way, of Kiev regime, and of course recruiting these terrorists, some of them probably, or maybe majority of them, in case of Colombia's probably already were criminals, right, and serving in in all sorts of drug cartels, and maybe were directed towards Ukraine to gain some knowledge of a high intensity conflict, also to operate with drones and that kind of stuff, right, with modern weapon systems. And it's a terrorism. I believe it's a terrorism, right? And on this topic, dear friends, we have this report today. RIA Novosti reported, and many other media outlets, that in Stavropol, a citizen of Azerbaijan was detained, who, under the directions of Ukrainian handlers, planned terrorist attacks on the territory of the Russian Federation. The man previously served in the special purpose units of the Azerbaijani armed forces. Russia's Federal Security Service reported, and this terrorist was detained. This Azerbaijani terrorist was detained by Russian Federal Security Service. So, yeah, right. Quite unfortunate news for relationships of Russia and Azerbaijan, because who knows where investigation will lead. Maybe due to recent escalation by Azerbaijani leadership against Russia, maybe Baku is the capital of Azerbaijan, is actually sending its special forces members to participate in terrorist attacks against Russia on behalf of Kyiv regime. Maybe Azerbaijani leadership is involved, or Azerbaijani state institutions, let me say this way, are involved in this criminal activity, terrorist activity against Russia. I mean, just saying, by the way, let's see where investigators' evidences will lead, right? Maybe we will find out. Also, dear friends, an interesting reporter from TASS news agency, which is based on Russian military expert Andrei Marochko, that Kyiv regime's forces lost more than 4,000 troops and mercenaries in the battles near the LPR in the past week, for more than 4.3 thousand, actually, right? Which is quite a big number, by the way, if you keep in mind that most of the LPR, I mean, 99.5% or more maybe, is actually under Russian control. There is only little parts of some forestry areas that Kyiv regime still might have some DRGs and some units, but they are no longer in control of any settlement on territory of LPR, right? But battles, of course, are waged on borderline with their LPR from all sides, and as a result of these clashes, Kyiv regime just in the past week lost 4,300 military personnel. Overall losses of the Kyiv regime all along the front line, by the way, I'm quite sure is way above 30,000 troops, and this is what is happening monthly, right? I share quite regularly reports of Russian Defense Ministry on daily losses of the Kyiv regime on all sectors of the front line, and numbers, it's usually it's 12, 13 hundred military personnel that Kyiv regime is losing on daily basis. So in a month, obviously this will accumulate into way above 30,000 losses. Also, dear friends, another expert, Vladimir Rogov, that I mentioned today during the first update, and I was unable to remember his official position, and I'll give you his position now. Vladimir Rogov is saying that the number of people willing to send troops to Ukraine has decreased. Number of countries, by the way, not the people that want to send their troops to Kyiv control territory decreased. So chairman of the public chamber of the Russia's Commission on Sovereignty issues, co-chairman of the coordinating council for the integration of the new regions, Vladimir Rogov, and by the way, I mean, there is no way I could remember his title of his position, man, isn't it? So chairman of the public chamber of the Russia's Commission on sovereignty issues, and also co-chairman of the coordinating council for the integration of the new region. Vladimir Rogov noted that the number of those willing to send the troops to Ukraine has noticeably decreased, although French President Emmanuel Macron named 26 countries, including members of the coalition of the willing: France, Britain, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, Finland, Denmark, Belgium, Canada, and others. But the statement by Russian President Vladimir Putin became a sobering shower for the authorities of many countries. And good if it is so. Earlier, dear friends, Macron, president of France, reported that 26 countries had committed to deploy deterrent forces, so-called deterrent forces, in Ukraine. After ceasefire, in turn, Vladimir Putin said that there was no point in foreign troops being in Ukraine after a possible agreement on a sustainable peace was reached. The Russian leader also stressed that Russia would consider any troops on Ukrainian territory to be a legitimate target for destruction, right? And Rogov is saying that after this strong statement of the Russian president, a number of countries actually changed their mind about sending their troops to die on Kiev-controlled territory. Good if true, by the way, right? Definitely can be case. The Russian, we have another quote here from Rogov. The Russian president's statement has become a sobering shower for many regimes that are aggressively disposed towards Russia. The number of those willing to send troops to Ukraine has noticeably decreased. This is evident from a series of statements by the Western countries and their satellites that have publicly disowned Macron's idea. Rogov told RIA Novosti, and well, in past days, by the way, quite a number of countries in Europe, one after another, made their statements, leadership of those countries, that they're not going to send troops nowhere, isn't it? Quite a number of countries did that, from Finland to Spain and Portugal, by the way. None of them want to have anything to do with a direct war with Russia. No matter how keen on that war globalists are and globalist control regimes are in Europe, first of all, UK and France, of course, that are leading this so-called coalition of willing, or coalition of, and you continue, dear friends, there is a memes, isn't it? Million memes are circulating now about this coalition of willing. RIA Novosti, I already reported about it. So also, dear friends, interesting reporter I spotted on Kirill Fyodorov's channel. Yet again, one of the biggest channels, Telegram channels, by the way, in Russian segment of internet. And the report is that photos were published, and you can see this photo on your screen right now, of a derailed train carrying munition in Sweden. So some good news there, by the way. Train that was carrying munition, God knows for what purposes, maybe to transfer to Kiev regime, derailed, and carriages, you can see, end up in water, some of them, at least. Hopefully there was no casualties among civilians. That's all I care, by the way. Hopefully there was no casualties among civilians. Otherwise, I mean, good. What can I say, by the way? Sweden chose to be Russian enemy, so therefore, Also, dear friends, interesting news is coming from Germany that Greens there accuse Merz, Chancellor of Germany, and his coalition of denying another 4.5 billion euro in Ukraine aid. These people are insane, isn't it? These people are insane. And most famous German Green is, of course, a member of the Greens party. In Germany was, of course, this Annalena Baerbock, by the way. Annalena Baerbock, former foreign minister of Germany. This Annalena 360, as she is called. And some people are saying that tremendously uneducated, tremendously, bad person, and intellectually bankrupt individual might even become a head of UN, by the way. Truly, some people are saying that, which is insane. That will be definitely end of UN, by the way. If someone like Annalena Baerbock or Ursula von der Leyen or Kaja Kallas or any of those people, by the way, that are formally in charge of globalist control West, if any of them will, or some are even talking about head of IAEA, by the way, Rafael Grossi, that he was promised that he will become a Secretary General of UN if he will play a longer side with Israel and US with this whole Iran's nuclear issue. And he did play along side Israel and US, isn't it? After all, right before Israeli strikes, day before Israeli strikes, IAEA, this organization, which is compromised completely, by the way, by Israel, US, and UK, they come up with a document that was then fake document, but document that was giving opportunity of many interpretations, right? And that document was then used for justification of Israeli and US assault on Iran. Right? Even Rafael Grossi was allegedly promised to become a head of UN. So it's crazy, isn't it? It's crazy what's happening. But nevertheless, Annalena Baerbock is the most famous German Green Party member, and you can have an understanding what kind of people these Greens are. What kind of intellect do they have, right? Germany is experiencing economical decline, by the way. Country officially is in recession. And while this is happening, German Greens blame Merz coalition of denying 4.5 billion euros in Ukraine aid. Politico is reporting about it. At the federal budget session, Greens wanted government to spend more on Ukrainian aid, Ukrainian air defense. Ruling CDU and CSU coalition hit back at the Greens, accusing them of playing politics. So yes, man, these Greens are psychos, I'm telling you. It seems to me that this green movement definitely transformed into some psychopathic gathering of the people that might have some mental issues, right? All over the world, by the way. All over the world, right? Especially in the Western world. And look what they do on a regular basis. They are acting crazy, you know. Also, they are not just making statements, crazy statements, insane statements, but they are acting in kind, right? And this particular case is a pure demonstration of that, isn't it? While German economy is in depression, in recession for now, okay. While German economy is in recession and has no chances actually to improve the situation, one of their political parties in the parliament, by the way, is that, and one of the political parties that was in a coalition, right, during the previous regime of what was the name of previous chancellor? Anyways, this party is demanding 4.5 billion euros to be transferred to Western-backed terrorism regime of Zelensky, instead of helping their own people in Germany. This is clearly, definition of the insanity, man. That's what it is. And dear friends, there are so many news left, and this live stream is already 1 hour long. Maybe I should keep some of the news for tomorrow's live stream, because if I continue, it will take another hour at least, by the way, right? So maybe I should end the live stream now on this reporter. What you will say, dear friends? Should I continue? I'm looking at the chat right now. 84 members are joined our chat right now, our stream on YouTube. Unfortunately, I cannot see how many members of our community are on Rumble, watching the update on Rumble. Hopefully, at least for this moment, you did find the stream to be informative and interesting. And maybe I should end the stream right now. And to join community chat for a little while. What do you think? 17 on the Rumble. Michael Kennedy is commenting right now. Thank you, Michael. And dear friends, let me end the live stream. It's a 75 now. It dropped on YouTube. I guess I chose very wrong time for a live stream. I choose very wrong time for live stream, and there maybe I should save those news for tomorrow's first update, so that more members of community will take a look at it. And okay, let's do that. Let's end the live news segment on that. And there was no super chat. I guess there was no donation during the stream to highlight. So therefore, I will just go through community chat, dear friends, and that's gonna be it. Levan, they started regime change operation in Nepal for banning American social media apps. I know, Nidish Kumar. I read news about it today. There was clashes, isn't it? There was clashes. I believe there are casualties also in Nepal due to this development. That's what West does. That's what Western ruling elites do. Their friends there. They want to have assets everywhere, right? To get involved in domestic politics. So, best way to go forward is to actually ban all organizations that are funded by Western, all sorts of funds, Soros fund or other funds, and to have a strict control over their operations of foreign assets. This is the only way you can secure your country. Russia, it took quite a while before Russian leadership made a decision to get rid of a Soros fund, which was operational here in Russia too, by the way, and many other so-called humanitarian organizations that were actually used as a tool, by the way, to build up their presence in the country and to recruit the people, basically. Western secret services are using this all sorts of funds, all sorts of organizations that if you look at the name of the organization, you will say, oh, such a nice name for the organization. Probably they do some good stuff. No, man, they don't. They don't. Their main purpose is to recruit the people, right? To brainwash the people as much as they possibly can so that they will have influence over them, right? And to infiltrate society, basically, as much as possible. Society, state institutions, and so on and so on, right? That's what collective West is quite good at, or Western secret services, right? And it took quite a while before Moscow finally realized that they cannot play around this topic, man, and they began banning all these hostile organizations, and still until now, by the way, every now and then I have seen reports in the media that this organization was banned and that are related with all sorts of Western funds, so-called funds, by the way. In reality, it's Western secret services. Who knows how many people they did manage to recruit over the years that they were working here in Russia, and how many people they did manage to brainwash. It's a dangerous stuff, by the way. It's dangerous stuff, and no country should waste time on considerations. They should go ahead and ban, by the way. They should all adopt the foreign agent laws and use it actively, implement it actively, and they should all neutralize foreign assets that are operating on their territories, because this will not end well. How many examples we have of that? Dozens and dozens, isn't it? So yes, thank you for giving us more information, Nidisha, on the matter. I did see reports about developments in Nepal, and you see, global South is clearly some forces are destabilizing global South. By the way, Indonesia just now Nepal. What should we expect next? Thailand, maybe Thailand gonna be next. By the way, I don't know. I'm scrolling through. I'm scrolling through chat, dear friends. Yet again, if you want to donate to this project, dear friends, you can do it. All the links are on this video description box and in the pinned comment, and you can use super chat feature on Rumble also. Um, Alexander G is commenting the Germans and Austrians have issues with the Bolsheviks, or whether in Russia or Europe. They did not have an issue with the Russians as such. Well, good, good if so. I mean, Alexander, good if that is the case, and if societies in Germany and Austria are not as Russophobic as you know um, as it seems, right? In its majority. And when it comes to Bolsheviks, by the way, I mean they have a Bolsheviks in Brussels, isn't it? Bolsheviks are running the show now in Europe. Am I correct? That's what Bolsheviks are, man. And we are. I mean, Russia is engaged in this fight against modern Bolsheviks that overtalk Europe, isn't it? And if Germans and Austrians are against them, then they should become a little more active, and they do. By the way, they do. I know that IFD in Germany is on rise, right? Most popular party right now, and soon there are going to be elections in one of the lands there, and they might have a big success, right? They are leading right now by 12% or something. So I think globalist control regimes, by the way, Western elites have become a modern day Bolsheviks, right? They don't have to be declared the communists, by the way. You know, Bolshevism is something different. Bolshevism is when there is only one way and that's it, right? That's what Bolsheviks were doing. That it's only our way or highway. That's the approach they had, and their exactly same approach is being implemented by these freaking modern Bolsheviks in Europe, all over the Europe, by the way, almost everywhere. Right today, I shared on my Telegram, dear friends, a video of German being arrested during the protest. You know for what? He was carrying flag of Germany, and police drag him away. And also interesting news that some 55%, allegedly, by the way, I saw this report on RT's Telegram channel. So allegedly, some 55% of police force, new recruits in the police force of Germany, are struggling with the language. This is not a joke, by the way. I have this news. I have prepared this news to share also in today's live stream right now, but it's already like hours. So okay, I will share information tomorrow. But yes, that's the reports, right? That about 55% of recruits in German police force are struggling with the language, and maybe exactly those people took that German that was carrying flag and arrested because they hate Germany. Probably, I don't know. You know, it's insanity, man. Can you imagine in your country? You are in your country. You are carrying flag of your country, not without harming anybody, without doing nothing. You just, you know, participating in some protests or just walking around with the flag, national flag, and you've been arrested for that. This is a insanity, man. This cannot be explained any otherwise. It's just pure insanity. That's what it is. And there just a couple of days ago, I reported and I shared video, I believe, when uh, UK citizen was arrested exactly for that, for carrying British flag, this Union Jack, by the way. What the hell, man? Nitish Kumar is also commenting, Levan, they are executing opposition in Germany. I mean, they are not yet executing them, but those Bolsheviks gonna do some crazy stuff, man. I would not be surprised at all if they will go full crazy mode, right? But they clearly are trying their best to suppress the voices of the people. That's for sure. And Alexander G is also commenting 100% Bolsheviks are running Europe right now. And yes, I agree with you, Alexander. Uh, that's what my take is also that they are modern Bolsheviks, by the way. These are so called neolibs, right? They are modern day Bolsheviks, for sure. It's globalist controlled puppets. And dear friends, if I may, I will end this live stream. Tomorrow I might try different time. Maybe 8 o'clock will be the better. I saw a question right now. Sandy Brown is asking, who do you think is paying for all the mercenaries in Ukraine? Not Ukraine for sure. It's European taxpayers, by the way, and used to be U.S. taxpayers too. Canadian taxpayers are also paying still to nowadays. And when it comes to US, I don't know if Trump is saying truth and US is no longer sending money to Kiev regime, just weapons, then okay, maybe US is no longer funding all this bloody war, but financially at least. But other countries from collective West, most of them do pay for it. And first of all, Europe, of course, European taxpayers. And it's not just mercenaries. I mean, European, Western taxpayers basically for many, many years now are paying literally for everything. For salaries of their officials in Kiev controlled territory, for salaries, by the way. You pay wages for Zelensky and his administration, and you pay wages for so-called MPs in Ukraine. You pay wages. I mean, Western taxpayers pay wages for government members of the so-called Ukraine, their deputies and deputies of their deputies and their assistants, and you pay for everything. You pay for everyone who works for a state, including schools, school staff, some all sorts of services, right? State-run services, state institutions, and also for Kiev regime's armed forces. Money is coming from collective West. For everybody, by the way. Kiev regime itself, according to IMF, by the way, International Monetary Fund, which is definitely not a pro-Russian organization, isn't it? And according to World Bank, which is also controlled by the West, without direct financial assistance from the collective West, Ukraine would collapse in a couple of months' time. They would not have money to just sustain anything. Just months or two, that's it, right? And this months or two is because they still have money that was also sent by the West, right? So that's how it is, man. This Ukraine only exists as a quasi-state right now because of the Western money, because it cannot sustain itself. And dear friends, oh really? Nitish Kumar is commenting that you will get arrested in India as well for a flag for a different reason. Come on, man! You cannot carry Indian flag in India. Probably there is some different explanation because I doubt that you're going to be arrested just for being patriotic to your people, by the way, and carrying the flag. I mean, we were walking just a few days ago. By the way, we were walking. We went for a little walk a few days ago, right? And it was Gogol Boulevard, I believe. There was um, some events, right? Musicians were doing their stuff. They think, the whole summer. By the way, there was a summer in Moscow event, right, organized by city administration, and there was events everywhere in squares and boulevards and here and there. And we were just walking around there, and there was some events there, and flags were given to people by organizers, right? And well, we get the flags too, isn't it? And you can walk around with the flag of Russia, and it's nobody's nobody's business. By the way, who's gonna say what? Nobody gonna say anything, right? So, I mean, we have a very different approach to the issue. But I'm quite sure in India there is some as you said, there is some other explanations, I guess, that I just don't know, right? Okay. Nidish Kumar is adding that Indian flag has a code how to use it. That's a different. That's a different story. Yes, if you have to, you know, if you have some traditional ways to do some stuff, and that's and that is in your laws, then yeah, that's a different story. But like you cannot wear it. I mean, Nidish is adding that like you cannot wear it as a dress, caps, etc. Okay, I can understand that, but you can carry a flag itself, right? So okay, thank you for this additional information, Nidish. And so uh, and so yes, this is it for today's second update. Yet again, dear friends, hopefully this two news update a day format will work good. Tomorrow I will have a live stream at 12 o'clock Moscow time, in midday, and later on I will have a second update, but most likely in a walk and talk style from somewhere. I will record somewhere in from the streets here, right? And maybe day after tomorrow in the morning I will publish walk and talk video, and in the evening I will have also a live stream. In any case, I will let you know upfront about the schedule. Thank you all, dear friends, for being here, for your attention, for your support. Have a wonderful day, and see you tomorrow. Thank you.